You know that moment when someone says to you, it's just stress. And in your mind, well, outwardly, you just smile politely, but a lot of things is going on in your head. And your body is silently whispering to you that, my dear, fat chance, this is not stress. This is sabotage. Let's talk about it. Do you live with symptoms that keep showing up? Nausea, feeling like vomiting, actually vomiting. You've got those light sensitivity, the sound, you just want everybody to just keep quiet. But you've convinced yourself that it's just stress. You've listened to everybody and their mother telling you, oh, it's just stress. Go and drink water. Go and lie down. Maybe you've normalized them. Maybe you've even blamed yourself. I understand what it's like to downplay your symptoms because you're trying to be strong, productive, and fine. I know how easy it is to ignore early warning signs because your life is busy. Those bills are real. And quite frankly, nobody wants to be dramatic. The thing is, migraine oftentimes whispers before they roar. And many people miss the whispers. So I know you've heard, and perhaps you even believe you've normalized it when people say, oh, it's just stress. Go and rest. Go and drink more water. But let's talk about it. What is stress? You know, there are two types of stress. You have the positive stress and the negative stress. The positive stress, the uterus, looks like it's stimulating, motivating, a beneficial type of stress that comes with challenges that you can handle. You are equipped to handle. The negative stress, the distress, looks like is a harmful stress. And this tends to happen when you are overwhelmed. You have this feeling of, you have an overwhelming feeling that you just cannot manage. You have the overwhelming demand, and this can lead to negative physical, mental health outcomes, especially if it takes a lot longer. What does the WHO talk about when it's defining stress? And from this definition, I will classify more as the negative definition of stress. And it says that stress is a state of worry or mental tension that tends to be caused by a difficult situation. You know what? Stress is a natural part of the human life. It's a natural part of your life. You will experience negative stress and positive stress. The most important thing is how you handle the stress. Stress can affect our mind and our body. And, you know, a little bit of stress is a good thing. And in particular, the good type of stress. Because a good type of stress helps us to do our daily activities. But too much of the stress, especially when it goes to the negative type of stress, it can affect our physical and mental being. And for you that is living with migraine, when people say, oh, it's just stress, yeah, they might be right that it's just stress. But many times you need to ask yourself, why? Why is this happening? What is my body telling you? And remember, like I mentioned, migraine tends to whisper. And it is when we ignore that whisper that then it roars. So we want to learn how to listen to that whisper and sort it out. Determine if this is a healthy type of stress, or if it is a healthy type of stress that has gone into the unhealthy type of stress. What are the signs that you are stressed? Stress will tend to make it hard for you to relax, and it might result in certain emotional actions like being anxious or even depressed, being irritable, being frustrated, and having the feeling of overwhelm. You may even find it difficult to concentrate, and maybe your nervous system starts to act up and play up. And so sometimes it can manifest as headaches and migraine. And many times your whole body starts to ache and you feel tired, fatigued, and just having that feeling of being under the weather. Stress can cause you to have trouble sleeping, having good night rest, and might affect your eating habits. You don't feel like eating, or maybe you tend to eat a lot more when you're stressed. And there are different types of stress apart from the two ones that I mentioned, because your stress can be acute or it can end up being a chronic situation. So I mentioned that stress can lead to you having headaches and even migraine. But the thing is, we need to know the difference. What exactly are you having? Are you really having a headache, or is it a migraine? And many times, many people go undiagnosed, or they self-diagnose themselves as having a migraine when indeed they are having a form of headache. There are different types of headache that you can have. For example, you could have tension headache, cluster headaches. And then there's migraine. Migraine is very different to these two types of headaches. So looking at migraine, it's always a good idea to get a diagnosis of migraine. The reason is because if you self-diagnose as having migraine and you go ahead and start taking medication that is for migraine headaches, migraine attacks, you could find that the headache, the head pain that you're having can graduate into something that is a lot more chronic and debilitating. So knowing what type of head pain you're having will help you get relief from your head pain quickly. And also you will know how to manage even your stress situation, and you even know if your head pain is caused by stress or it's something else. For some people, they might have an underlying health condition that tends to trigger them to have a migraine. But you need to know. So how do you know if you have a migraine? How do healthcare professionals diagnose you as having a migraine? We use a tool called the International Headache Society criteria that they came up with. You can also refer to the NICE guidelines. And how migraine is diagnosed is you've got to meet certain criteria. These are the criteria that you must meet to be diagnosed as having a migraine. remember, cluster headache and tension headache are completely different types of head pain. There are two broad types of migraine. So you have the migraine without aura, and you have the migraine with aura. The migraine without aura, to be diagnosed as somebody living with migraine without aura, you need to fulfill these characteristics or these criteria. According to the ICD, the primary headache category of migraine, you need to have at least 5 of your migraine attacks needs to fulfill these conditions. So the first one is the headache attack needs to last between 4 hours to 72 hours, whether you treat it or you don't treat it. The headache is lasting up to 3 days, 4 hours to 72 hours. That's the first criteria. The second condition that it must fulfill is that these headaches must have at least 2 of these conditions. Is neurolateral, so it's on one side. Could be on your left, could be on your right. It's pulsating. It's throbbing. Some people use the word banging. I know a particular lady was saying it was just there. You classify it as this is a moderate to severe head pain that you're having. And it stops you from doing any activity, or even is aggravated when you do activities. So like going from your bedroom to the toilet, or going downstairs, or climbing upstairs, or going to your car, or going to work. It stops you from doing any of those things. Or I know for me, even getting out of bed and just walking to the toilet, I just couldn't do it. It was so painful. If you're experiencing at least 2 of these, there's a chance that you might be diagnosed as having a migraine. But before we say, okay, yeah, you have a migraine, you must fulfill this third bit. During the migraine attack, you're experiencing at least one of these symptoms. Nausea or vomiting, or you're having sensitivity to light, so photophobia or phonophobia, you're having sensitivity to sound. You don't want anybody to open their mouth and talk. The dog barking outside there is driving you nuts. You don't like that. You don't even want the light to be switched on. You prefer to be in the dark. You're just covering your eyes. If you have at least one of this, then there's a chance that you have a migraine. So if you fulfill these criteria, then there is a strong possibility that you are living with migraine. I'll go through it again. So a migraine is if you're having at least 5 of your attack is fulfilling these criterias. So these three main criteria I'm going to list. So the first one is your headache is lasting 4 hours to 72 hours, whether you take medication or not, whether you treat it, ice pack or whatever or not, you're still having the headache. The second is your headache has at least 2 of these conditions that I'm going to list out to you, at least 2. So out of the 4 conditions that I'm going to list out to you, you're getting these 2. So it is either on one side, left or right. Sometimes a study has shown that it could be on both sides or bilateral. It is pulsating in quality. So you're having this pulsating, throbbing, banging pain. Or maybe you tell the practitioner that it's moderate to severe intestine. That's the third one. And the fourth one is you tell them that I can't do anything. I'm just laid at bed. Even the appointment that they've set for you, that day you get a migraine attack, you say you just cannot show up. You cannot come. And if you're fortunate enough to have a phone conversation, you're more happy to do that. But for you, you have to have the phone next to you, really, because everything aggravates it and you try not to do anything. Okay? So that is if you fulfill the second criteria and at least two of the conditions I've listed, then you might be classed as having a migraine. But before we do that, you need to fulfill the third one. And the third one is that you must have at least one of this. You must fulfill one of these conditions. You're feeling nauseous, you're vomiting, or you're having light sensitivity or sound sensitivity. So those are the three main things. And then there's sometimes the fourth one, in which it might just be that there isn't any better way to classify that. Using our criteria, we cannot figure it out. So if you're fulfilling all the others, then there's a chance that you might have a migraine. One thing we follow that you have, for us, the main way we really say, yes, this is a migraine, is that you're having photophobia, you're incapacitated, so you can't do anything, and you're having nausea, you're being nauseous, you're having nausea. So this is the pain method. Photophobia, incapacitated, and nausea. Then we'll say, okay, there's a chance that you might have a migraine if you fulfill these. There are three main questions that we'll ask you to really determine if it is a migraine or not. Because remember, keep emphasizing that it's a good idea to get a proper diagnosis. And unfortunately, only 12% of people are accurately diagnosed. The thing is, when you don't get a good diagnosis and you're treating a headache like it's a migraine, you can get into chronification a lot faster. And chronification is really when your migraine graduates. So your migraine goes from, oh, I get it once in a while, to I'm getting it often. I'm getting it more and more. There are different reasons that could be. And I'm just saying that one of the reasons could be that you're treating a headache like a migraine. And there's a danger that you might be having a migraine, but you're treating it blasely like it's just a headache. And the latter is what I've seen a lot more with people when they are really having a migraine, but because they think it's just a headache, they don't take it too seriously. If you're experiencing light sensitivity, if you cannot do anything, if you avoid doing strenuous work, or if you cannot walk, or you cannot do your daily activity, you cannot go to school, you cannot go to work, you're feeling nauseous, you're even vomiting, then there's a chance that it might be a migraine. The three questions that we ask are these. Has your head pain limited your activities for a day or more in the last 3 months? The second question is, are you nauseated or feeling sick to your stomach when you have a head pain, when you have a headache? The third question is, does the light bother you? You know, those horrible fluorescent lights. Does it bother you when you have a headache? If you answer yes to 2 or more of these questions, then there might be a chance that you are having a migraine. Having a diagnosis, an accurate diagnosis of your head pain, will really help avoid chronification. It will help avoid your headache, your migraine graduating from a primary headache, so migraine, to a secondary headache like medication overuse headache, for example, and to prevent you from going into the chronification phase or territory. And that is why I created the Migraine Relief Mastery. This is to help people recognize these patterns a lot earlier and finally understand what their body is trying to tell them. It's not by guessing, guesswork. Guesswork is not helping, it's not helpful, and it hasn't helped you. Rather, we follow a framework. You get a framework based on the NICE guidelines and the ICD criteria. When you start recognizing your symptoms for what they are, migraine, for example, or likely, and not just stress, everything just shifts for you. You stop repeating painful cycle. You stop blaming yourself. You stop repeating that cycle, all those cycles of pain, pain, blame, pain, blame, 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 pain. You stop repeating those. You start responding instead of reacting. You become more proactive, not just being reactive. And your body stops feeling like your enemy and becomes your partner again. And you know what? This is when life opens up for you. When you can finally plan your life, plan your day without waiting for the pain to ambush you. You no longer have those anxiety about pain and thinking, oh, if I do this, will I get the pain? You no longer have that. When clarity replaces confusion, you also have confidence that replaces chaos. Which of these symptoms have you been experiencing? Watch this video to learn how to treat them without taking more medication.